Hello lovelies, how are you all doing today? I hope you are all well and fine and dandy. I am. There's a little bit of sunshine coming out today, yay! Now, the haul, the haul is done. The haul is all completely finished in terms of the decorating. The gas meter box is done and I've got one last little job to do, which includes some sewing, which is why I'm over here with all my fabrics this morning. But also, this is a kind of a job I've been meaning to do for ages, is to just have a really good go through my fabric stash. Now, I think it looks like lots on camera, doesn't it? But actually, this cupboard is not very deep. It's only that deep. So it probably looks more than it is. And the vast majority of fabric here, it is earmarked already for various projects. So for instance, this is all, oh, sorry, I just thought of something. I've come here for some fabric for this project for the hallway today. I'll tell you about it in a second. And I've just seen a piece of fabric here which has reminded me of some fabric I've got stashed in my top of my wardrobe cupboard. I'll go and fetch it in a minute. But the other thing is, I've kind of been thinking about having a bit of a sort through, a go through. Maybe there were some fabrics I could let go of. But like I said, these are all earmarked and they're all in kind of little groups. It's not going to pick up on camera, I don't think. So for example, oh, let's just play with fabric for a minute. For example, this, oh, I love this, a bit of vintage. So this selection, I'm just going to try and fan them out a bit so you can get an idea. Oh, and there's another one. This selection is for one lot of bunting. So it's all these lovely greens, so it's greens and yellows is the main thing, but with some pinks. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Oh, I can't wait to get back to sewing. I've just, in the last couple of years or so, I've just not been getting the time. I think it's one of those things as, excuse me, with the progression of my knees getting a bit worse over the years, everything else takes a bit longer. So the free time, the time that would have been free for sewing, has been less and less. Now this is another lot. Actually, it'll be harder to tell because these fabrics are all inside out, but isn't that gorgeous? It's sort of a Regency feel to it almost. But they are going to make this colourway. Oh, there's some actually made up. I made a long string for someone a couple of years. I'm being really unhelpful. Okay, so the idea with this one is it's kind of lilacs and sort of sage, that's not lilac, but it works in this lot with that, and then that sagey spot. You get the idea. This is a sort of the colours of the herb bed, if you like. So that could be borage. I've got a lot of sewing to get on with. So yeah, like I said, this pile here and below, they are already earmarked and they're grouped. They're in little colour groupings already for buntings. They never go back in as neatly as they come out, do they? This is another, oh, I love this. Now this is lovely because there's some really nice vintagey bits in here. Let me fan them so you can see. I think it's easier to hold the fan upside down, isn't it? So these sort of pinks and limey greens, but yeah, some nice, this green with a stripe, that's a vintage one. This pink one on top, that's another vintage. Oh, I love those colourways. Yeah, I'm distracted. Oh my goodness. You all know what it's like though, don't you? When you go into your fabric stash, you go in for one job and then before you know it, you're pipe dreaming about all sorts of other jobs to do. Yeah, it's a time thing, and this is, like I was saying at New Year's, to do with some of the changes to make in life in order to free up time to do some of the things that I miss doing, like sewing. I love these two together. I've already christened with with all the buntings, they all get a name. And this one is going to be called Night Sky, or maybe The Garden at Night, because it just makes me think of, I don't know, it makes me think of the night sky. So, like I said, there are a few bits in here that I think I'm not going to use. So, for example, this one. So I had a commission, 18 months or so ago for some bunting someone was having a studio, sort of like an outdoor room. Yeah, a studio office built for their garden, and they wanted some of my bunting. Great. So although I haven't had the time to sew any for my shop for, I think, 2 years, crikey, I have done a few on commission. And this particular lady, she's quite gothic. She wanted sort of, quite gothic colours. And I found this and I thought, oh, it's kind of the blacks and the purples, but it was too floral for her taste. That's fine. That's one of the things when you're making for other people is, when I make bunting for the shop, I'm making it to my taste, and if someone wants to buy it, great, and if they don't, well, it just shows, doesn't it? But yeah, she thought this wasn't to her taste, and I don't know whether I'm going to use it either, so that might be one that I can put in my shop just as a piece of fabric. It's not quite quilting weight, it's so my brain just went somewhere else. I'm just thinking about projects. It's quite a low thread count. So where you would want a cotton poplin for doing quilting. So a cotton poplin, it's really smooth to the touch. It's a higher thread count, so those threads are closer together, so it's smoother. But anyway, yeah, so I think I can let that one go. So many. So this is some lovely vintage, it's like a ticking. But the stripe's got a bit of a wiggle in it. This is some lovely French material I picked up. And that I was thinking of for my project today, but then I've suddenly remembered something else, which is even better, because this I bought it washed, pressed, put away, because this I think is going to be possibly for some cushions for my new home. Obviously without knowing, I don't know what my new home is going to look like or what have you, but it might be that if there's a possibility of making a window seat, because I do love a window seat, then there's quite a bit of fabric here that could do for a window seat. There are a couple of small holes right in the middle-ish, so I'd have to be careful with my cutting. That can stay. Oh, this one's lovely. I found this as a remnant. This is what happens, isn't it, when you go in your family? I found this as a remnant, and it's barely even a fat quarter. It's not even a fat quarter, but I think it's so cheerful. Can you see? Little cherries. So yeah, it's not even a fat quarter. You see, I don't know, paid 50p for it or something in a little remnants basket. But I just love it so much. And I think when you do small work, I think I might talk about this more. I might do a video, because I need to get on with making lavender bags as well, about how I choose fabrics depending on what I'm making. Obviously depends on the scale of pattern. So with a little pattern like this, if I was making something big, Like if this was a pair of curtains, a bit light for curtains, but anyway, you wouldn't really get a sense of the pattern. It would be more the colour, a sense of the colour, so it would look pinkish, reddish. Whereas on something really small scale that you're kind of handling and looking at close up, then you get to see the pattern. So I already started siphoning off some fabrics to start my next lot of lavender bags. And talking of taste, they're all sitting over there. It's all sorts in yellows. Now, I don't use a lot of yellow. Well, I haven't until now, because it's just not my favourite colour. I like blues, greens, kind of slobby pinks, dusky rose pinks, however you want to call it. But last year when I made the lavender bags, all the ones in yellow, I think there were only about 5 that were in various shades of yellow. They all sold straight away. They all went. And I had people asking me, have you got any more in the yellows? So I thought, okay, obviously yellow is more popular out there than it is in here. Below that, so this is, I've got sort of paler colours here. I've got some lovely fabrics with, for instance, can you see what it is? Bees. And I love this. This is Liberty with the dodos on. This was sent to me. It's gorgeous. These are no good for making lavender bags though. These really pale colours, because all the seams show through, because they're patchworked. The seams show through and the lavender shows through, so they look dirty. They're not, obviously they're not, but because the lavender flower heads are, you know, dark purple, a grey purple, they just look grubby. So I don't know what they'll be used for, maybe a quilt for myself. There's a whole load of fat quarters here that I do want to, I love that. That is utterly, utterly me, my kind of fabric. Yeah, that might be a quilt for me, but a machine-made quilt, a machine-sewn one, not English paper piecing. My English paper piecing patchwork has been on the go for about 3 decades. Oh. What I need to retire, so I've got time to do all these things, but retirement is over 10 years, it's still more than a decade away. Anyway, so I think, and then underneath in this section I've got a load of seasonal fabrics. When I say seasonal, I mean sort of Christmassy, because the idea is, I wish I could sew full time. I wish there were 48 hours in the day. What I would like to do is make bunting, but on a smaller scale, so the pennants are only yay big, little triangles like that. On a softer, more pliable webbing, so they can be draped like sort of around a mantelpiece, or even on a tree, or in the hallway when you first come into your home. They've been waiting to be done for ages and ages and ages. I just thought of something then to say. Oh yeah, so sometimes people ask me, I might as well just while I'm here, quite often folk ask me, what is bunting, Vivi? What is bunting? In the UK, we know what bunting is. So bunting is, imagine little pennants like this, strung, lots of them, all strung on some webbing, you know, on a tape, and then you put them outside your shed to decorate your shed in the summer, or hang them in your garden, or, for instance, weddings. You'll often see bunting at weddings or christenings, any sort of event, party event. And also in the UK, towns and villages up and down the country in summer will often string bunting right across the street, so their main little high street where shops, cafes, that sort of thing, you'll see them zigzagging whoop, 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 right across. So if this is one side of the street and this is another side, they'll be strung right across, zigzagging all the way up the street, especially in seaside towns. So yeah, so anyone who's wondering what bunting is, it's just a bit of decoration and jolliness. Right. Oh my goodness. I don't... You know what, I think, because I've got enough to be getting on with. I think in terms of, I'm just popping that material back in. How many of us do that? We start sorting it. No, put it back. I think because I've got enough to be getting on with today anyway, and the coming days, I will leave the fabric sort out until another day. But just to explain the project for today, it's to finish the haul. So what I decided with the hallway was where I had originally had the sort of tucked, if we were looking out at my home, my front door is here, and to the side I've got that little bit of extra space. And that's where I had my coat rack, so I hung a couple of coats there. And sort of hidden by the coats underneath had my set of step ladders and my ironing board. Perfect place to stash them, they're tall. But I decided I didn't want to put the coat rack back up, having finished decorating, because it's all a bit, I don't know, a bit messy, a bit cluttered. So the coats have stayed in the wardrobe for now. However, I do need to put the ladders and the ironing board back out there because I don't have a tall enough, no, my wardrobe cupboard isn't tall enough because the bottom of the wardrobe has got shelving in for shoes. Anyway, so they are going back outside, but they're ugly, aren't they? Especially the step ladders. So I thought, I know, I'll make some slip covers for them. Just very simple, slip on, down, over them, covers. Disguise them a bit. But also with the ironing board, it'll act as a dust cover. And I was thinking this about my grandma's. I suddenly had a flashback and I could picture the ironing board, should I say, in that kind of funny little gap behind the door. There was a little, and it's slotted in there, and it always had a dust cover on it. And that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because, you know, sometimes the ironing board gets a lot of use. So if I'm doing the lavender bags, the ironing board will be out all week because every time I make a seam, I'll be pressing it open, pressing the fabric before I even cut it. We'll do some of that in a second. And then there are other times when it gets, I'm doing this like pointing over my shoulder because the ironing board is stood just there. But yeah, there are times when it goes away for ages, so it's going to get dusty. And then if you think about it, if it's getting a bit dusty, when I go to use it, I'm putting clean fabrics on there to press, but it's dusty. So yeah, I am going to make 2 slip covers, dust covers, whatever you want to call them today. One for the ladders and one for the iron. Hang on a tick, I'm going to hoik that fabric out of the cupboard and explain what I mean, and then talk about how I've measured, because I've actually measured both items already before I get into pressing and cutting. So the bit of fabric I saw in there that reminded me of what I've got up in the top cupboard, I've got 2 duvet covers. They're in the lovely Cath Kidston Rosalie fabrics. This is actually, and the thing about duvet covers is there's a lot of fabric in them. This one it's only a single, and the reverse is that. I picked this up second hand, paid quite a lot for it. I think I paid £8, which seems like a lot for a second hand single duvet. However, there's meters and meters of fabric in it. Now, what I'm thinking for where they're going to be at the top of the stairs, I think this is going to be a little bit bright. I don't want them to be massively bright. It's not about going like, oh, aren't they lovely, aren't they pretty? Rather like the gas box, it's more about saying they're just covered, they're out of the way. So this is a bit bright. However, this duvet, oopla, this is my old duvet. So it's, let's show you. It's essentially, it's white with the roses on that side, and then, and you'll be able to see how faded it is, that on the other side. But this is really old and tired. Oh, and here's a patch. I don't know if this will pick up on camera, but, and this won't matter for the slip cover. There is a patch on here, a really quite a big patch. If I bring it really close, can you see the edge of the patch? That's because and then from a distance, can't see it, can you? I used an old pillow, one of the matching pillowcases to make the patch. It was within days of buying this, however many years ago. My darling Charlotte Bronte, because she's a long dog, long toes, long nails, was making herself a nest on my bed one day, and naughty girl. She didn't ever go on the bed after that, ever. I mean, I didn't, shout at her or anything. I just said, oi, down. But the damage was done. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because these are just slip covers. So I think this is a better option. It's a bit more subtle. And probably what I'll do, because I can't make my mind up. Hold on a second. Where have you gone? I think what I'll do is I will do one side of the cover in the rose fabric and the other side in this sort of check. It really is faded. I mean, this cover, and you can see how, I don't know if you, I mean, the seams are, there comes a point of when you're repairing, you see how fragile that seam is. Look, that's all whole. I must have had this for well over 20 years. I had it way before I moved in here. So because of that, it's I mean, obviously it's been washed and washed and washed. So it's lovely and soft. It's faded. I like that. And then when I come to putting them outside in the hallway, I could put one, the check side out, and one, the flower side out. Or I can think, oh, is that a bit too girly? So for instance, if I know I've got someone coming to view the property who's a bloke, and sorry, but you know what, if he's, I don't know, maybe he'll like flowers. I don't know, I'm being sexist suddenly, shame on me, but I could just do both on the check side. Either way, it's practical in terms of a dust cover for the future. And of course, I don't mind doing something like this and making something, because I'll take it with me when I move. And that means that then I'll have a dust cover on my iron when I move. So just quickly in terms of measurements, and then what I'm going to do off camera now is I'm going to cut the seams off, cut all these seams off, keep what I cut off because it will work as string in the garden. I've done that before. Get the fabric pressed, always press before you cut. And then I've done my measurements for both items. It's my ironing board. So height, the height is kind of obvious. Now in terms of the width, I could be really fancy. I could do a back and a front, and then I could do a narrow strip that's sort of a gusset that goes all the way around. I ain't doing that. If this was something in view all the time, then I would. You know, if it was a window seat cushion, then I'd put a gusset around it. I'm not going to bother. I'm just literally going to do a front and a back, sew them together, job's a good one. So in measuring the width, obviously what I've done is I've done the circumference. So where the step ladders are closed, that's the two ladders. When they're closed together, that's not the width. That would be too narrow. I've got to take into account how much fatness there is as well. So I've slung the tape measure all the way around. I haven't just measured across. That's going to be too narrow. It's gone all the way around to give me the circumference. I've halved that and added a couple of centimetres either side for seam allowances. That should do me fine. Okay, so let me get this pressed and cut out. We'll pop over to the sewing machine, and today on the sewing machine, because I've been asked this a few times from someone, sorry, it's not a real name, it's one of those usernames, it's letters and numbers, so I can't say who you are out loud. It's has asked me to show threading the sewing machine and winding a bobbin on, or creating a bobbin. So we'll get to the sewing machine and I'll show you those two very straightforward things, bearing in mind that every model is a bit different. So I'm going to be showing you on my Janome. Right, cracking on. Right, time to get on with some sewing. It's taken me ages and ages to do my pressing and cutting, and now everything's pinned and ready to go. It's such a simple thing. It's going to be a seam up one side, a seam across the top, seam down the other side. It'll be quick now. But before I do that, as requested, let's look at one, how to wind a bobbin on. So I've got my empty bobbin ready, and two, how to thread it. But like I said, most machines, you know, they're all going to be slightly different, but the principles should be the same. So, sorry, excuse me. So first things first, thread on my thread spool pin, and then the little bit that goes on the end to keep the thread in place. So this is for doing a bobbin first of all. So then it comes round in the top of the thread guide, and this is my bobbin winding spindle. It's got two positions, one to the right and it nudges up against this, which will spin it, and the other one to the left is nothing's going to happen. So I've got it on the left at the moment. Oops, where's my thread? Taking the end of the thread and going from the inside of the bobbin to the outside. It's going to be so hard to see, isn't it? But the little hole in the bobbin, pushing my thread through it. So now my thread comes out of the top of the bobbin. Oh, it's so hard to see, isn't it? So I'm going to keep hold of that thread for the minute, the one that's coming out of the top, so you can see where the thread is coming. Oh, it's white thread. Sorry, I need white thread. I'm not going to faff around with red. But the thread is coming towards the inside of the bobbin, and then it's threading up out of the top. Now I want to engage the spindle. I'm just going to leave that for a second. So where I've got my handle here, I'm going to pull it out with a clunk. That disengages the clutch, which now means that my needle head isn't going to go up and down, up and down. So just holding that little bit that's sticking out of the top again, I'm just going to do a couple of, wind it around a little bit, and now where it's wound around and around, it's trapped that thread against the inside of the bobbin spindle. So that little top bit that I was holding on to, I can simply snip off now, and then just put my foot on the pedal and run it, and that will wind my bobbin up. And when there's enough thread on the bobbin, it senses it and it will stop. So you can see the needle is not going up and down, nothing's happening at this end because that handle is out, means the clutch is disengaged. I use quite a lot of white, so I'm going to put a complete bobbin on here. I'm going to fill the bobbin up, and then you'll see it as it gets fuller and fuller and fuller. I don't know how well you can see it. Turn it a bit. It will stop itself. So you see it's just stopped itself. Fine. So, click it back out to the left, take it off, take it out of the thread guide, snip it off, and then just get it popped in there ready. Now as for threading, yeah, it's going to be different on a lot of machines, I would have thought, but the principle ought to be the same. So again, we've got the thread guide at the back here, so it's going to loop around that, and then it comes forward. Mine's actually got little numbers. It says 1, 2, 3, 4 to remind me where to go. Coming around this section, just want to engage that. That's my thread take up. As I come around under here, that's the spring section, and what that spring is where I can adjust the tension. I don't know if you can if you make out there's a little spring in there. Carry it down to number 4. Then there's a little catch just above the needle to put it in, and then I'm going to thread my needle from front to back. Look, it's kind of hard. Oh, and here we go. How are my eyes feeling today in terms of threading? It's a bit hard to show because it's... I need a handheld camera or something, or someone else doing my filming for me. I'm just going to pick up my bobbin thread now. It's your machine should have a manual, and if you've got a second-hand machine and you don't have the manual, the chances are you could pick one up either second-hand or even print one from the internet. So my bobbin's done, my needle is threaded, just going to get on, do my sewing. There's my pin box to put my spare pins in. Get my sewing done, and then we'll reconvene towards the end. Yay! Sorry with that maybe it wasn't close up enough or in detail. Maybe I'll do it again another day closer in more detail. I haven't got time today, I just need to get on with my jobs. It was a bit of a wonky cut. I actually had to cut it out on the floor. It's one of the issues of not having a big table here is cutting on the floor and therefore it being a bit wonky, but don't matter. It don't matter. It'll all come out in the end. Right, yeah. I'm just going to get on. I'm just going to quickly turn a hem on this. This is the one for the step ladders. Yeah, quickly turn a hem. Normally doing a hem, I would press it before I actually sew it. Nah, this is just quick sticks, quick sticks. Just get a cover on. So I'm going to say cheerio now, for now. And next time I see you, I will catch you up on everything that went on to tartificate, prettify, whatever, my hallway. I can't wait to just get this quickly, quick, finish it, because then I can get it outside and I can do all that. I've got loads and loads of clips of the hallway at different stages, all the different little bits of progression, and then, so I'll show you that, and then I'll show you I'll tell you about that in the next video. So I will see you in the next one for a bit of a little bit of hallway renovation, tartification, whoop whoop. Can't wait. Until then, please look after yourselves, stay well. As we go into March, well, we're having this little bit of sunshine today. I don't know if it's going to last. It would just be nice if, as we go into March, we get at least a few dry days. A few dry days would be really nice, so we can all get outside a bit and enjoy our gardens again. Anyway, that's all for another day. For today, let me get finished, and I'll see you in the next one really soon. Cheerio.